All right, everybody, good morning. We're live. We're live here in Colorado every Friday at 11 o'clock. I'm your host, Lowell Whiteman. Coach is what they call me, Coach Whiteman. On 360 Performance every Friday here at KUHS Denver, The Stream. We are one of the top, I don't know if everybody knows this, but we are one of the top national streaming mediums in the country. I think lately we've been right around number 3 in streaming. What that means is that the number of people that look at what we do or listen to what we produce is top 3. I like that. So if you're looking to promote something, send an idea, get a following behind what you're doing, this is the place to come. 360 Performance every Friday, or KUHSdenver.com is now broadcasting live, the stream that I'm sharing with you today. And today we're gonna talk to, I'm only meeting her for the first time face to face, well, virtually face to face. But she comes to me through a colleague of mine, Mary Peterson. I'm grateful to her and her recommendations because she recognized that we had something in common. And that's kids and sports. And making sure that kids get the best shot they can get at being their best on those wonderful playing surfaces, whether it's a football field, baseball diamond, basketball courts, lacrosse, whatever it is, having fun at what they're doing. And in a minute here, I'm going to introduce everybody formally to my guest today. But before I do that, let me just go through a couple of things. Our mindset moment every week is a quote that I pick out. This week I picked out a quote from Robert Frost, and I think it's fitting for today's conversation, what we're going to talk about. All great things are done for their own sake, so says Robert Frost. All great things are done for their own sake. So that really, to me, that means that greatness can't be held back. If you get on a path of greatness, it's its own sake. Make it, define it, push it, and you're going to have a great time in doing it. But I guess you have to, as the Nike saying says, just do it, right? Consider it, think it, and then just go do it. But that's our quote for this week on Mindset Moment. Our theme this week with Coach Grace is Education Online for Athletes. It's a new day. We're redefining normal as it relates to training and educating. And for student athletes in particular, some of them are perhaps concerned, we're going to talk about this, concerned about, will I have a season this fall? Or what kind of a season will I have this fall? And how do I prepare for it now? Staying in this moment right now and being with our players. So briefly, we lost our video connection. We still have our Facebook connection, but there's Mickey. She's back. We had a bit of a blip, but that's okay. Technology is our friend. We'll go big screen there. So with that, let me introduce you formally to Coach Mickey Grace. She's in the wonderful state of Pennsylvania, in the Philly area. I'll let her explain to you exactly what her background is like and the things that she's doing right now, besides sitting in that wonderful comfy chair you're sitting in. I have to say that again. That is just I love that chair. That reminds me of the days when I was hanging with my kids watching a movie or just, getting into hugs. So Coach Mickey Grace, you're currently coaching football in the state of Pennsylvania, in the Philly area. Tell me a little bit about what you're currently doing and what brought you to that place that you're at today.
Yeah, well, first, I want to be remiss to thank my story sister Mary Peterson for connecting us. Shout out to women who are just near and dear to my heart. I'm a defensive coordinator for high school in Philadelphia called Mastery Charter. And I've also been training years now to the I also have been interning at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I've interned for instance, the Raiders, the Bills, a bunch of, and I've all worked at that column. It's like how you I see it able to just, and really blessed to learn from all the coaches. Also, Dirk Cutter, who is the head coach of Tampa Bay, I seen his own, and I realized that if I wanted to be the boss, I needed a boss here. So
Well, you have not only an interesting background, but I think a background that people can learn from as to what are the steps, what are the next steps. So how did you get into that stream of process? The intern, the coaching jobs that you're doing. Did you go to college with the intent of being a coach? And if so, what did you train and learn during that process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I played high school football on my boys' team. In high school, I was a starting PN at Germantown High School in Philadelphia, and I loved it. But I also thought that that was going to be high school. Really enjoyed. I wanted college. I played rugby for a few years, but also didn't take that too far. I thought football was over. So when I started going back to my high school, just to give back, just to be around, to the younger guys, I ended up coaching, but I wasn't calling it coaching. It's time to even define what I was doing for myself, because even for me, there wasn't a place in my mind to really recognize that I was coaching, like I coached. So they made me their defensive line coach that season, and then I've been a coach ever since. But also, I never really knew what next steps were. I say all the time that like I knew what this in front of me looked like, but I was never privy to the whole staircase. And I also kind of had to surrender the idea that I needed to have a plan. Because also when I went to NFL and I started working, and then I realized that the steps I had created in my mind work today with my NFL and it seems, especially when you come from education, but the reality is not everyone follows that. There are a lot of coaches who never played football. There are a lot of coaches who didn't coach in high school, who didn't coach. It's just everybody's path is your, and I think if you try and stick too hard to a path that you feel like has been written for you, is where you'll mess up. Because if greatness is going to happen, it's going to happen, but you also have to surrender to what's happening. You don't get to decide where football takes you. Football tells you where you go, and you either have the opportunity to accept it or to, you know.
So Mickey, you know Mary Peterson well enough to know that the questions and the relationship I have with Mary Peterson, this question is not going to seem too out of bounds, but I want to qualify things. Because of the sport, the very masculine sport that you're participating in, how do you identify yourself in that marketplace?
It's kind of an interesting dual role that I have. Of like, I know that I don't look like the people in this sport, but I also get most of the time. And people who know me though, like the people I train, the people I coach around, the people who know who I am, we all kind of forget until someone else comes around new and then surprised, and we're like, oh yeah, that's right, she's a girl. And also it helps that my name is Mickey, because it's kind of a guy's name. Like it could be either, so people really don't think. Exactly, people don't really think about it. So it really does help me forget, because when I am talking to people, I want to learn more ball. I want to learn X's and O's. I want to like push what I know, and I know that I could learn for me, my only real objective is to like, hold the standard and make them accountable to said standard. It's our goal. So like, if you watch the NFL Films documentary about me, which is like 7 minutes that the NFL dropped in December, you'll see that I'm not as friendly as I'm being to you at the moment. I love them dearly. I'll do anything for them. But I also, one of the most loving things I do is I don't settle, don't accept less than what I ask for and less than what I provide.
So it sounds like the passion you have for the game and the sport comes through your verbalization, your intonation, and then the knowledge. You add knowledge on top of that gives the credibility and validates the reason why you're there, would probably feed that. You get forgotten. The gender issue gets forgotten because of all of those other levels of quality and reaffirming of, man, this person really knows what they're doing. This person knows the game, and not just from, I can imagine your body movements also validate the fact that you know it from a contact basis as well. You can communicate. I know what it feels like to get hit. I know what it takes to backpedal to get into position properly as a D-back, and that's going to come through. Is that pretty clear, or am I off?
No, you're absolutely correct. I love the drill and whooping their tail. Me and just doing it better than you is just so to move on later. You know, I talk trash anything, and like don't try me, but then also because I need to teach you and I need to hold myself into a certain with them, so they also like it gives them something to subscribe to. Like they don't have to make their own space for me in their doing because I'm very matter of fact. Yes, I'm a girl. Yes, I'm a feminine girl, but also I will trash you lovingly though, just so other people can't trash you. You know.
So Mickey, how often can you and have you used this line? You know you just got beat by a girl. Do you know that? Do you know you got beat by a girl?
I have actually never used.
Oh, come on.
But I just make sure other people around me use that line.
I like it. I like it. The message is clear, though. Regardless of how you verbalize it, the message is clear. Player, you got some room to grow. Player, you need some things you have to learn from me, and I'm the one that's going to teach you. That message comes clear regardless of how you state it.
Yeah, Malcolm Jenkins actually announced me or introduced me before something he was doing just for me to speak. And one of the things that he said was, if you were, you'll never get the keys to your own success. So once you kind of take off in your brain of who should have the keys, you get the opportunity to find so much more than you would have ever thought was. And now he's going to the he loves after being here so long. I trained him and he's been Pro Bowl. Like, it's me and him every summer. Actually, he's on the NFL. You know, he's one of the players who we had a wonderful working relationship with, and I love his wife and his daughters so much. But also, like, I would air him out regularly.
That's awesome. Well, with that being said, you know, there's a component to the whether you're a male or female. There's a component and validity to a feminine mindset. I told male coaches that I deal with about getting in touch with their feminine side. And that first gets a little twist to their face and they kind of go, what? And I said, look, if you're trying to be matriarchal and impact a player outside of the game, you need to get in touch with your feminine side so that you can influence players like a recent news story, regretfully so, a not so nice one, DeAndre Baker and their spree with their guns and holding people up, and well, that's an attitude and a method of behavior that they probably weren't influenced by a lot of feminine sides when they were growing up and being players at a young age, where they could understand how to stay in touch with forgiveness, how to stay in touch with being apathetic and empathetic to people. So, do you position yourself as a matriarch to influence? Do you share that side of you with other coaches so they can really get in touch with those kids that need to, because I know kids that love contact, but they need to know how to control that contact and manage their emotions.
I would agree with you. I actually have a degree in psychology. There's a lot that I give to every team I go to. There's a lot of intuition. There's a lot seeing things for face value, and also being young, I can just respond and communicate with the class well. Even if the adult players, I can just respond to them well. But there's a version of this where I really don't ever say the word feminine and masculine unless I'm describing like I'm a feminine woman. Other than that, I'm not like, hey, let's get into your feminine side. I don't say it, but there is also like I push things and I like this should be masculine. Like your self-care. Being able to just, even with my kids, I was a math teacher and being able to just teach them, making kids define the feeling that they feel is something they're not even used to. So especially in Philly, there's a lot of kids that just don't have parents at all, or have one parent, or live with their grandmother. So for us, but I am someone who loves you and I'm an adult. Like, if Philly become our old heads, like, that's that's my old head. And it's someone who puts you on to game. It's someone who gives you free facts and free information to try and open up your brain to give you tools to always live, to always be the first stuff. So I don't really feel like it's like a feminine thing, but I do feel like for me, it's absolutely, I want to make sure the kids know everything the hard way. I want to make sure they know everything that is a lesson that I can see them, about to make. I'm just here to guide them. I'm just a stoplight, and you can bring the horses to the water, but you can't make them drink. So I don't want to get into it being feminine, but I also I want to normalize that taking care of yourself is masculine. Taking care of your friends, being emotionally supportive to your friends is just as masculine as it is feminine. It's just done in what I believe.
Yeah, and I agree with you on a lot of those different fronts. In fact, it's the simplicity of the exchange that really emphasizes the complexity of the theory. The theory of femininity, this theory of masculinity, and being savoring moments and being collaborative. But you got to be simple because there's a lot of influences that are missing from the kids and players we coach, that just simply saying, this is what kindness looks like. This is what strength looks like. This is what power looks like. And how to blend that all together to create the connection for a championship team. I love coaching because there are so many layers to it that many people haven't investigated at any depth, because it embodies life, and you can use so many great examples to bring to the player what life is about. And so that's my next question for you is, with the current state of affairs, how has your life changed with coaching?
I mean, with everything right now, I love this chair, but I really wish I wasn't in it so much, and I am zoomed out. However, I sit at this chair and I do everything from, making the PowerPoint that I made before. They're the same, but they're a little more involved. Telling players where to go, what to do. There's an opportunity here to do so much that we wish we could do during other seasons or other, times that we just didn't have time for. We didn't have the availability for. So, I get to have everything from, huddle nights where I am telling you how to work every single part of your huddle, how to actually use it to help you and to actually grow. It's not just, film and cut ups. There's so many more things you can do with huddle, which I didn't know until I was
yeah.
And they just taught it to translate that information and disseminate it to the youth of my city, or anyone, I guess, since this is out of my city. But there's so many things now you get to do. It's, for me, we kind of have to surrender the idea of if there's going to be a season or not. You kind of have to surrender to no one knows. No one knows what's going to happen. We don't know if it's going to be locationally or, by country or, even by school. No one knows. So, you kind of have to just take into consideration who you are, what you have, and where you sit. So we have the opportunity here that next time anyone does step on a field, no one should be unprepared for anything. No one should be like, oh, I haven't seen that, or I didn't expect that. There is so much game film out on this world. There's so many coaches' speeches. There's so many just information to be shared right now and to be just.
So Coach, what are you recommending your players to look at as their primary source of connection to all of that information? There's so many pieces to pick from. Are you helping them organize their curriculum, if you will, their reading list?
Yeah, so part of my PowerPoint is to put links in and then to share it out. And I just tell the boy, here's your options, this is what I'm trying to do. And it's everything from workouts to speeches to them watching, names that they know. Give these sit-ins, talk about this. Sometimes I might have an NFL come on. Tell them, if you're not working out, what are you doing? And just encouraging them. A lot of them also here, we have a lot of mental health that we're trying to advocate for and just keeping them sane with it all. But even the ones who needed more accommodations, trying to help them get more support. A lot of you and just kind of wrapping that all into one and really making the point that football's objective is to set you up for life in all other areas. Like that's the vehicle that we use to find those problem solving things. So just pushing that agenda by way of books, by way of speeches, by way of YouTube, by way of Huddle, you know?
So with your point about resources and giving them some problem solving skills, I'm going to be commercial. This is one of my wonderful clients and sponsors. It's AbCare, and you can find it. This particular product is a germicidal hand lotion that's alcohol free. So if you don't like your hands being cracked and bloodied from putting constant applications of alcohol-based products, this is registered to kill COVID, as well as SARS and other types of very nasty germs. And it's also very interesting that once you wash your hands with soap and water and you put a little spot on your hand, it stays for a long time. So for athletes, in particular athletes that get a little ashy or have sensitive skin, lotion is a great thing and it protects. So that's AvCare, AvKare.com. Now, what's also very interesting is my client has given me a discount code that I can use and share with everybody. So if you go to their Shopify address on their website and use 360 PERF for 360 performance, see what I did there?
I see.
360 PERF, you'll get a discount on this as well as hard surface disinfectants that are right now being used in locker rooms in Tennessee. My company client, they spray locker rooms with a static sprayer that adheres the disinfectant to the equipment, but doesn't fade the equipment or it's non-toxic because it's a green footprint. So it's not you don't have to throw it away in the hazardous waste. So it's really good stuff. So that's AvCare at avcare.com. So Coach, I'm going to pick up on that problem-solving piece you mentioned for your players and ask you about where has the administration on the educational for mastery that works with you, where are they doing? What are you asking them to do in support of whatever it is, the education process, the training process, heck, getting prepared for this next season? It can't happen soon enough to prepare for it.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of our surrendering right now is that our administration can't even say what they're doing with our school for school. So it's hard to say, what we'll do about sports, especially a big one like football, where so many young men are involved and young women are involved. So for me, we have just been making a routine and creating the routine around the school's routine and putting it on the school's calendar and making sure that everyone knows that this is, a time that's set in stone. Our ADs and my head coach have been phenomenal about just the intensity of how the importance is. Like, this is our spring ball right now. It's not optional.
So are you done with your school year?
We're not done with our school year, but we are not going back to school for any reason. In the fall. But no, our school year is still going.
Okay. And are you a teacher?
I am a teacher.
What classes do you teach?
I teach 10th grade algebra and teach a leadership course, but it's only for the student athletes.
I'm a math teacher. Relate to you on that.
Oh,
yeah. Well, I was a basketball coach that taught geometry in practice.
Oh, no, I didn't like you. Nope, I was not it. Nope. But it does that none of my kids can fail math. Like, no one can fail math.
Well, exactly. And they would say to me in practice, say, Coach, could we not talk about right angles anymore or the obliqueness of the approach to the basket? I mean, please. I mean, so when we would have to split practice with the girls, we would go late, they would go early. There were study sessions before practice with me, and they just went, oh my God. And parents would say, I am so glad you see my child more than me. Because it just buffered the whole routine. Now, I've moved on from that, Mickey. I'm better. I've matured. I don't talk math as much as I used to.
I hope not.
So, what have you done then as a teacher, Mickey, to adapt what the future might look like in the curriculum in the future? Are you going to add more technology to the training and educating process, or is it going to go away after the emergency's over?
I think one thing personally we have learned that like we cannot shy away from any technology anymore. Like there's nothing that is an excuse anymore. Like no one can be, like not well versed, at least a really small part. We're not going to get away from it. It's just going to get worse. More coming up for this fall. You are up as best and so I think one thing we are doing is we'll always have some kind of virtual meeting. And we have that option now to like meet virtually. Now that we have Zoom, everyone else just like their tool out. But for example, my team this year, we had a horrible tragedy happen to us at the end of our season. My running back was actually shot and killed at the end of our season, and it was so hard to get to all the boys who needed me, like specifically needed me to pull them up and yank them out of what they were in. But if I had a Zoom or if I had a way to figure out how to talk to them all, because also Mastery Charter North is 5 different campuses worth of boys. So I only see my campus's boys during daytime. There's still 4 more campuses of kids that I don't get to see until practice. And there's a lot to like really just take advantage of and be grateful for now during this time and space, but also carry on even if things change. Because we don't know what change is going to look like.
Coach, do you have a group texting app for yourself?
I just like better is the easiest one. I made all of our coaches get it last year, which is really funny because they were all old. So I pulled up to practice one day and was like, "Give me your phone." And they were all making whoa wife jokes like, "Hold on, Mrs. Like, yeah, I'm not giving you my password." But I took everyone's phone. I downloaded Huddle, Sideline Huddle, and GroupMe, and I made sure everyone was aligned and knew what to do. And that's how I made them all get onto technology. And now I love those things. They're great with that. And now I'm trying to teach them to do new things. I love the screen sharing options of Zoom because I'm like, this is how you do things.
Coach, I will send you I'll put you on my list to send you the tech updates that I get on different apps. I'm connected to both the theater, music, and film industries, and I constantly get apps from them that are beta testing and or being used by that genre of folks. But they have the same issues that you've just mentioned, keeping in touch with musicians, keep in touch with theatrical people and actors and actresses. It's very challenging to stay connected in a focused way to avoid the tragedies that you've experienced and seen other kids experience. So you and I are kindred spirits in making sure that communication is shared in ways that avoids someone going down a path that's going to result in something tragic. And I think communication can be of great help with that. So expanding on the technology piece a little bit, what are you finding is the most beneficial for you as a coach while on the field? Like at the high school level, you had an experience. At the pro level, you have another experience with like Windows, the laptops and stuff. Are you able to utilize that technology on the field to help guide players during the transition of offense to defense, or is it pretty much verbal and whiteboard?
No, I would say when I was coaching professionally, it was really like super whiteboard, basic. Hey, I need you to see what I see and just trust me. So that was really hard to do. But the good thing about my high school and NFL is we both have sideline technology. So in high school, we have Huddle Sideline, which helps me just see, we can pull back any plays that we just watched and really like blow it up. So show whose fault it was. Like, don't argue, it was your fault. Also, in the schools, we have Microsoft software. So we have Microsoft Surfaces. We actually print out the Microsoft Surface photos to show people, like, here is, especially for the defensive line, which is, near and dear to me, is that, here was the snap, here was the half a second after the snap. Like, here's who it was. So, it. Uh,
So, Coach, when you're seeing the eyes of the player on the sidelines, looking at all these great resources that you're showing them, the video, the imagery, the still photographs, what help do you use off the field learning about the learning skill set of that athlete? Because I know that there are some athletes, especially at the high school level, that being yelled at or a loud voice is a foreign thing, is a turnoff. So when you catch those differences in learning style, how do you incorporate that awareness into that sideline huddle between series changes with those tools?
Yeah. I mean, that just comes from like knowing your players and knowing who you have and knowing the tools you have in your toolbox. Like if you're a coach and you don't know who you're talking to and which kind of way, I have to be really like I have to be like, hey, bro, listen, like we need to do this thing for us. And there's other kids I'm like, bro, don't talk to me. You know what I mean? Like, and I pretty much subscribe to two beliefs. Either I am going to give you a lot of positive reinforcements and I'm going to pipe your head up is what we say. Like I'm gonna fill you up, I'm gonna gas you up. But there's also a bunch of players who I dog out. I tell them exactly what they're doing wrong all the time, and they don't always get to know why. But I'll tell you why. This is the only people that know this are my coaches, because I never tell this to my kids. Because kids will come to me and say like, why are you always, why are you beating so hard on me? Why are you going so hard on me? And it's because the kids really who need positive reinforcements, they need to be the ones to prove me right. They need a family on their back to prove right, to say I'm doing this for my coach because she believes in me. But then there's a group of kids who they need someone to prove wrong. Like I need to do you. And also knowing like who's a physical learner, who's an auditory learner, like those things, you really have to get those things out because that's when you watch film. That's when you draw on the board. That's when you physically put people where they're supposed to go and say, you stand here, look around. This is called cover two. Like that. You go over all the differences of learning. If you're doing all the watching film, doing it on the board, do it, and then physically putting them places, all three learning skills. So between that and the positive reinforcements, you have your little coaching teaching.
So Coach, you have these wonderful tools. You've got great experience. That passion comes out very clearly in the way you're communicating. So when you see the learning styles of these kids, has the pandemic given you a pause to be able to get deeper into understanding the players? And is that something that we want to recommend to coaches to take advantage of during this time? Because I know there's a lot of depression and feelings of, oh, what am I going to do? And I'm so muted in my ability to get things done. I'm thinking that this is a way to get deeper, get a better understanding of players. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's two buckets. There's like a tragic bucket, which I'll get into in a second, but there's a normal bucket. Like everyone kind of has anxiety, or they will. Maybe anxiety comes at different times. And the biggest thing that kids want to know is they're not in it by themselves. It's what we all want to know, really. It's why we talk to other adults so much that like you're feeling what I'm feeling. When I talk to other working moms and they're like, yo, there's so much, our brains are everywhere, it's like a relief for me. Like, thank you for like witnessing what I'm going through. You know what I mean? Like, thank you. Everybody wants anyway. So telling the kids, like, I don't know if we'll have football next year. I can't tell you we're going to do this, but I can tell you that we're going to go until someone tells us to stop. Because that's also been my whole career. Yeah. I'm going to go until someone tells me to stop. I'm going to stay until someone tells me I can't stay anymore. And so that's what we operate here. When it comes to tragedy, though, like kids really, experiencing loss and experiencing like not being able to just be around, whether it's loss of friends, just the loss of activity, there is something there that we really need to contribute to. So like giving them optional things and just giving them more supports and making it as easy as possible. That's one of the things that people are struggling with right now. It's not always about like how many uses of technology can we do. It's really about what's the easiest way to reach these kids. And right now I am the Instagram person for my team, for my grade class, for a bunch of different places. Like I have a lot of Instagram accounts on my phone, but it's because it's the easiest way to post. They'll see that before they'll see Huddle. I don't know why it's on the same phone, but they will. So like I will make sure that like it's attractive, it's easy, they can see it and it looks easy to join in. Once we start adding like different apps and different things, it gets really worrisome. Like I use more apps to make my PowerPoint than I'll ever ask them use. And I think that's one thing that coaches like. This is the job to make us do the work and make it easy to disseminate the information. They don't need the work; they need the information.
And I want to make sure that I honor some your time. You have a time frame we have to deal with, but I also want to share with you that Buck is it Buck Ogg? He sends his best. He just waved at us on Facebook. So you've got some good fans out there that follow who you are, what you do, and in a positive way admire you and want you to continue to present yourself in the way you do. That being said, what in the last few minutes we have with each other, what's the future look like for you? Where do you want to go with what you're doing now, and what more do you want to leave as the message to those you're touching?
I think that's really individual. I don't think that's a lot of that is my business. Like what I leave for people, that's not really up to me. I can give the best version, and I hold for myself and how I hold for Black women, for Black people, for women, for coaches, for teachers, for coaches, all simultaneously, but all also very separate. People tell me, especially my kids, it was Teacher Appreciation Week, and there was all these posts about, oh, she did this for me, she did that, and they were all so different. Whereas I realized that if I ever tried to do any of those things, it would have never worked. But like being transparent about the reality of who you should be and who you are wrong, but also don't be wrong more than once. And when you are wrong more than once, forgive yourself and still have enough courage to do it again. So I think when I leave kind of isn't up to me, but it's kind of like you said that, the Robert Frost quote that you said earlier that like greatness exists for its own sake. And I kind of internalized that like, greatness isn't automatic and it's not given. Like just because you deserve to be great doesn't mean you've earned to be great. And, greatness is enough. Like just be everybody wants to be great, and I think that doing the work to get there, everyone says, okay, what are you going to do after you get to the NFL? You're going to be great. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's the greatness. That's enough for me to now disseminate myself against the rest of the world, to open up the platform to say like, this is reality, this is transparency, this is mental health, this is being the best you looks really difficult. Gardening isn't fun. You get to see the pretty flowers, but necessary. And really telling people that, it changes how they conceptualize their entire world, but then also changes how they parent, changes how they react to kids in their lives, which is the point of all of this, is not creating a generation that needs to recover, creating a generation that not just gets to live, but gets to thrive. Like that's what this is all for. Like I'm going to be in the NFL. I'm going to coach. That won't be the headline. My headline is going to be, I'm going to be the best coach. I'm going to be the greatest coach because that's the objective. That's where I want to go. So anything that happens to me from there on my steps aren't my business, but are absolutely my responsibility.
You answered the question as I expected you to answer it, and from the perspective of I'm genuine. I own it. If I do it, I own it, and I'm here to participate and be part of a process that I believe in. And every coach that I've ever met that doesn't take on the mantle of being great themselves because it's not comfortable saying that about themselves, they are in fact great because of that omission. They emulate the things that they want their players to do, and they provide them through their own sacrifice the pathway and the environment and the time to get there. In fact, I'm saying this because I'm thinking about a coach that he died of cancer recently, and he didn't tell anybody. He was within weeks of his death, and he hadn't told anybody about how he was suffering. And that's just part of who he was. Coach Burmeister, Ken Burmeister, who coached at University of Iowa, my alma mater. He coached at Loyola University in Chicago, and was a mentor and great person for everybody. And I saw that in your remarks. I saw that in your body posture of emulating the elements of a coach that are so humble in what they do, and that just personifies the integrity they bring to the field, to the weight room, to the position meetings in sharing with their players. So the last question I have for you for today is, what are the goals for your season this year? So the message you probably already shared over and over again to your players, but share to my audience, what are the goals you have for your team this year in this off season as well as getting ready for the season, however it might be defined?
I mean, the goal is to have one. I'll take that to start. But also, I think for me, no matter where I am this coming season, it'll be the goal is to be prepared. The goal is to, whatever that means, mentally prepared, X's and O's, family, getting prepared with your family, getting your life prepared for these changes and having to surrender. Like, yeah, we have to surrender to what we don't know, but we do already know so much. So let's organize now what we know and how we function and how we operate and make sure that it's going to continue to serve us later. Because that's why well you manage, one stage of your life, the tools that you use to survive once may not happen or be effective in the next part of your life. Malcolm used to say all the time that he used to tackle a very specific way that later on didn't work for his longevity. Like he was doing more harm to him by tackling in a specific way, where he learned a different way that was just as effective, that made him stay much longer than any other middle linebacker that we've seen in a while. Yeah. And I think that utilizing those tools and the internet around you and just saying what tools served me then but won't serve me where I want to go. And I think there's so much time and space that we never get. Like, I would not be sitting down at this. I don't even see this desk usually this time of year or in the fall. I rarely sit here. So I get to do so much more now that I wish would never have time for. My mental health is the best it's been in a while. So I'm very grateful and do this, and it's just an awesome opportunity. And I just wanted to thank you for even having me on there and comparing it to an amazing coach who and I'm sorry for your loss, absolutely, losing those phenomenal people who know they're great but we can't say it, but also we know. And the reason that you can tell people now is because we never settle on our standards. We never accept it. Our standard is not the ceiling, it's the floor. And knowing that is how other people will call you great, but it's also you get to push so many more people. Us coaches belong to so many more people than actually belong to us,
Mickey, I know this isn't going to be the last time we talk to each other. I'm really excited. Expect some emails from me with resources I'll share with you. I appreciate the time and you're fitting me in today about the topic of educating against this backdrop of change that is going to redefine, if it hasn't already, our normal and what we perceive as normal. I wish you all the best in the days to come with your family and friends and those wonderful impressions and changes you make with kids that you interact with. Someday we'll be able to have a conversation over a beverage of choice and be able to share stories about people that we may both all actually know that we haven't shared yet, but those times will come. So expect some emails from me with the material we've created today. And be well, girl. Be well. Have fun.
Thank you so much for asking me and connecting via Mary P. Thank you. So I really enjoyed my time here. And thank you for what you do for our football world. It's a different planet. And, finding genuine, wonderful people who are on that planet is something that I don't, value. So thank you.
Keep the connections, girl. Be well. Talk to you soon. Well, there you have it, everybody. That's the end of my time with Coach Grace. I am so glad that I had the opportunity to talk to her today. And thanks to you guys who are tuning in today, Nikki and Bucky and Carol Ann and Carrie and all the folks out there that sponsor and support us here. It's been a great start of the morning here in Denver. Every Friday, we're streaming to you at KUHS Denver, 360 Performance at 11 o'clock. Now, I'm going to catch up on a couple of things. I started off the show with Coach Grace talking about a very not so nice thing that happened with two cornerbacks, the Giants, DeAndre Baker, the Seahawks, Quentin Dunbar. Here's what bothers me about that story. Not so much that they picked up a weapon, they confronted people, asked for money, well, not asked, they took money, took valuables from them. I'm not even concerned about the reasons why they did it. What bothers me is their organizations haven't made any statements about how they address those issues so that players, like the players that Coach Grace is coaching, like the players at any number of colleges or high schools around the country, could be watching this and they're listening to, or maybe have those two players, Dunbar and Quentin, Quentin Dunbar and DeAndre Baker as players they appreciate. Well, now that's changed. It's a different approach. So I want you to make sure you look at that and understand what's going on. And challenge those organizations to be aware of what they're doing. That they come out and make a statement about, maybe it's the NFL guidelines about how they handle that. Maybe it's about what their position is going to be. It's to my understanding, they're not even in custody yet. The law hasn't even taken a step. What message does that send to someone? That's interesting to me, that would be conditions that they're facing. It just bothers me that that's not happening, and those conversations have not happened. It's very interesting to me that we have situations like this. As I brought up with Coach Grace, she's influencing the mindset and the mindfulness of young players so that when if they get the opportunity to go to the NFL or play college ball, they have the groundings of fundamentals that create a thought process, a awareness of who they are as individuals, that they can control their emotions, they can manage their feelings, and be strong about who they are. If that happens, that's a great thing. And it comes from taking the challenge. As Coach Grace said, surrender. And if they surrender to who they are and let coaches guide them, they're going to be in a better place. So as we have every week, we're in our final segment. The final segment is about process. And I want to share a couple of things with you in that process of our show. And that is making sure that when you make plans for you in educating your players, your coaches, that you are focusing on a poem. It's don't let them quit. They're going to surrender to the plan that you give them, but don't let them quit. And here's that poem. And it's such a great poem. It's by an anonymous author. The author is unknown, but here's how the poem goes. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and that's kind of a thing that's happening right now, isn't it? And you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when you need to laugh but start to cry, when you must choose life but want to die, when care is pressing you down a bit. Rest if you must, but just don't quit. Rest if you must, but just don't quit. Life is hard with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns. As many a failure turns about, when you might have won had you stuck it out. Don't give up. Though the pace seems slow, you might succeed with one more blow. Success is failure turned inside out. The silver tint of the clouds of doubt. And you never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems so far. So stick to the fight when your heart is hit. Stick to the fight when your heart is hit. It's when things seem worse that you must never quit. I've read this before, and I'll probably read it again, because of the things that Coach Grace had said to me about surrendering and the tragedies that we all face in our life, and maybe some yet to come for others. But for certain, the tragedy of two professional athletes feeling so out of control of their own emotions and not realizing how great and wonderful their conditions are. I mean, they're pro athletes with great teams, the Seattle Seahawks and the New York Giants, that they felt that they had to do what they did. Coaches, I'm asking you, I'm challenging you to unite and be there for those two players. The NFL, their franchises, be there for those two players. As a coach, Grace is there for her players, and as she has witnessed in her experience with other pro franchises. Be there. Step up. Own it. Take responsibility for what's necessary to educate and train your athletes, because as Coach Grace pointed out, and as I've shared with you before, we have no excuses. We have no excuses about being there for these players, being there for the coaches and educating them, because we have technology. We've got group texting capability. We've got apps, if you choose to look for them, to share communication and give athletes another choice instead of going down path that may lead to tragedy. Make sure that they understand where you're at, and that your integrity, your humility is clearly understood by these athletes. It's a great day here at KUHS, The Stream. We do it every week on a Friday at 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. I hope you're going to be with me next week when I talk with Brian Byro. Brian Byro, he's a friend of 20 plus years. He's a father, he's a grandfather, but he is one of the country's leading experts on how to be a good leader, how to set expectations and then go beyond them with strategies that I'll call him coach as well, Coach Brian Byro, because he was a junior Olympic swim coach back in the day. He has a special relationship with Coach John Wooden that he'll recall in our talk with him next Friday on the 22nd of May at 11 o'clock here on the stream at KUHS Denver. It's interesting. The backdrop I have behind me is about coaches and how much time they spend with young people. And that in a given year, a coach might spend more influential time, meaningful time with children than their parents do, or their pastors, or their teachers. In fact, in some cases, like myself and Coach Grace, we were teachers and coaches. So we saw them in the classroom, and we saw them on the playing field, in the practice field, on the competitive court, when they faced the competition. It's good stuff. I miss it. I'm around it all the time in a different way, but there are days when I would love to be back on the basketball court, walking the sidelines, jawing at the referees, and telling them how they should have made a different decision, or something they missed and should have made a decision on. Coaching is something I am passionate about as a teacher, as a guide, and as a professor. So as you look at your role as a coach, as a teacher, as a mentor with those that are part of your world, cherish those moments genuinely, with integrity and humility. And don't quit. Don't quit. So as I close out the show today, we got about 5 minutes left. I want to make an emphasis again. 360 PERF, 360 PERF. That's your code when you go to the AvCare website, AvKare.com, and check out their Shopify site and use that code to buy your alcohol-free germicidal hand lotion. It's called Waltz Free. It's wonderful stuff. You can also get face masks there at better prices. They have a supply, better prices if you need a mask. They've got the disinfectants there as well, the Waltz V and the Waltz Free. Love this stuff. Use it myself. It is certified, EPA certified, that it kills 99.9% of what it needs to, and that includes the COVID-19 virus as well. But nothing better than being aware of what you're doing out there, covering your mouth, washing your hands. In fact, wash your hands before you put this lotion on, so you can take off any particulate matter and dirt, and then you put the lotion on for that extra protection to kill the germs. But avcare.com, check that out. As I said, we're going to have Brian Byro on the show next week. Brian's going to talk to us about his training session. He's gone techno training on us. He's going to have webinars to train leadership, which is mostly what he would usually come to you at a site, at a conference center. Who knows what conference centers will be open? And it could vary from state to state. Coach Grace mentioned, their administration is looking at that in the Philly area about when and how they're going to open up. any number of versions might happen. You might have fans or stands with no fans, and the players out there with the coaches, and then when they end the game, no handshakes, just maybe waves and virtual high fives. But that's yet to be determined. And hopefully, as we maintain good behavior and patience, the discipline and strength it takes to sustain that, and surrendering to what we know is right, is going to be necessary to get to the place where we can hopefully have fans in the stands and be part of that process again. So, if you have any comments for me, send them to 360mindset.com. You go on my website and share your remarks there. It's awesome to be here every Friday at 11 o'clock with you on KUHS.com, the stream. Actually, it's KUHSdenver.com, I believe. KUHSdenver.com. I want to make sure I get that right. You have to remember so many things. But thank you for everybody who is participating with us today. As I say that, let's have a great day today. It's maybe a little rainy today, but let's crank up some tunes and share with you the great sounds that we have every week, every day of the week, 7 days a week, 24/7 here at KUHSdenver.com. Have a great day, everybody. Be well.